So before we wrap things up, I want to discuss with you briefly some Star Wars news that just came out. This woman, Sariah Wilson, I think, did an interview with Rian Johnson and Daisy Ridley, and in it, kind of confirmed what a lot of people already figured out. But coming from these two, it sort of solidifies a lot of fan speculation. But basically, the sequel trilogy kind of shifted and evolved as it went along, with like no coherent master plan or vision in place for like a whole complete trilogy. Now, I know a lot of people are going to say, well, no duh. Well, yeah, no duh, but this actually confirms it from people working on the films and not
Yeah.
just some random shithead YouTuber. But in the interview, Ryan was not aware that Kylo Ren would die in the final film, nor was Daisy Ridley aware that Rey's true lineage was like a Palpatine. She was told that she was a nobody, and that all changed when JJ came in to do Rise of Skywalker. Now, the reason these tidbits are important, I wanted to bring them up, is because these are two of our main characters, and their overall storyline should
Yeah.
have been mapped out in detail before the cameras even started rolling. The fact that it wasn't, or that it was changed like mid-plan, speaks volumes. And someone made a great comment about how they essentially played Exquisite Corpse with the whole trilogy. Do you know what that is?
No, explain that.
Exquisite Corpse is essentially where different people come in and they add like things to it. So
Like, so back in the day, before the internet, there were bulletin board systems, and people used to do story time, like story, and like one person would post like a page of a story, and then somebody else would like continue the story. I'm sure those still exist on the internet with like postings, but like yeah, like or if you've ever like I don't know at camp or whatever done a round where you tell a little bit of a story and then somebody else adds and the story gets crazy.
basically
Yeah.
it. The definition is also known as exquisite cadaver, is a method by which a collection of words or images is collectively assembled. Each collaborator adds to the composition and sequence either by blah 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 blah. So
I was thinking about that with WandaVision because I was wondering if like why WandaVision gets so good in the middle and then it feels like the last episode was written by a completely different person and was just kind of like trying to wrap up as much as they could and didn't know what to do with some loose ends, so they just kind of left them.
right. Well, to be fair, WandaVision is setting up. WandaVision and the next slew of Disney Plus shows are setting up Phase 4. But what kind of annoys me is how so much thought is put into Disney's Marvel division, but almost no thought is put into Star Wars. And why is that? Someone on Reddit made a great point by saying that Kevin Feige, you can tell he's a Marvel fan. You
Oh,
can tell
he's
there's care and love that goes into it. Whereas Kathleen Kennedy, who runs the Star Wars stuff, you can tell she's not really much of a fan. She's kind of running it like a business in a sense.
yeah.
And
I mean,
I,
he's. I mean, Kevin Feige is a complete dork boy. You know, like he knows everything. Like he's a huge. He's like us. You know, and so he has that attention to detail. But you know, they have very different jobs, and her job is you know the direction of an entire business, and you know she's
Right, but the hate Kathleen Kennedy gets is sometimes justified. And I hate saying that because I know ripping on her is like a popular genre amongst those types of channels, and it gets a lot of views for a lot of people, especially if you put the words leaked or fired in the title. But every now and then, she does deserve the criticism. One example I can think of is when she said, and I'm quoting her here, in a Rolling Stone interview, every one of these movies is a particularly hard nut to crack. There is no source material. We don't have comic books. We don't have 800-page novels. We don't have anything other than passionate storytellers who get together and talk about what the next iteration might be. End quote. What the fuck is she smoking? Star Wars has been a franchise that has spanned decades with hundreds, if not thousands, of material to pull from. No comics? Bro, your latest film pulled chunks of its plot from Dark Empire, which released in 1991. And, like, it's dumb shit like that, combined with the lackluster finale of the sequel trilogy that make her look like she has no clue what's going on.
I mean, but the thing is like to blame, like Disney is doing fucking fantastic these days. Like, is there blame?
Well, Disney, yes. Bottom line is, but in regards to like the like quality, it's for Star Wars, it's not there. And as
Yeah.
someone who has dived into a lot of the material, I can tell. She has said stuff like that, firing the original directors for Solo.
Mm.
The two guys went on to make Into the Spider-Verse, which I thought was a much better film.
Yeah, it was great. It was a great movie. Great movie.
Well, the one thing I will say is that she did correctly put like Filoni and Favreau in charge of like the Mandalorian stuff, which turned out great. But this is somewhat like kind of echoed by some random ass investor during their shareholders meeting recently, where some dude asked if she was gonna get fired and and put those two in charge. To which the Disney CEO guy said, "No, that's not gonna happen. She's gonna be around for a while." Clearly, that investor dude saw or checked out a video from one of those channels I mentioned earlier. But no, to the original point, Kevin Feige, you can tell he's a true fan of Marvel, making sure to hire like the right people for almost every movie they're gonna put out. Whereas Kathleen Kennedy doesn't really have the best track record with that. I mean, remember the "In JJ We Trust" T-shirts? Yeah, that did not age
well. No, because I didn't like Force Awakens that much at the time. Everybody, a lot of people were very positive about it, but at the time. But the movie has not aged well. People don't look back on it that fondly as it was so glowing at the time. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. She's doing some things well and some things poorly, I guess. I mean, yeah, I think Star Wars has been mismanaged. But, she's got to worry about making money. It's tough. Now, Marvel has just exceeded expectations. But there is a big balance because you're not just talking about writing a story. You're talking about writing a story while building something else, like setting up the next thing and like tying in toys and marketing and all that kind of crap. And so, you do have to balance that. And so like you take a movie like Batman v Superman, that had too much setup where like this, the story itself became nothing because they were trying to cram in Wonder Woman, and all these different things that were going to be, and a Flash vision and all sorts of stuff. Like you've got to foreshadow Justice League and all. It's like, rather than telling a story by itself. The same thing kind of happened. I would say that happened a bit on the season of Mandalorian, where they were cramming in characters that they wanted to spin off, like having Boba Fett in there only because they wanted to spin him off, or having Ahsoka in there only so they could spin her off. WandaVision had, Rambo in there just so they could spin her off, like for the next thing. Which I think all of that is unfortunate, just like you need to write a story. Yeah, you need to consider that other stuff. You need just for consistency, but stop trying to cram in like the next story when your current story isn't freaking over yet. Like it's fine for after the credits. It's fine for after the credits. Like after the credits, that's what we expect because it's after the fucking credits. Like you've had your ending, like that's the ending, and then after the credits is something else. Like what I don't like is like to have it end and then be like, wait, after the credits is the ending? Like, because like WandaVision, the after the credits is the ending. Like that's not like her in that cabin. Is very important to interpret the entire series, like, because she gets corrupted and is not necessarily good in the end, and that's very important to know when you're interpreting, the events. But that didn't belong after the credits. But and Monica Rambeau didn't belong in the fucking show. She belonged after the credits or something. Jeez.
But no, Star Wars. It's I wrestle with this question in my head quite some time. Should they just like retcon the entirety of episode 7, 8, 9 and just redo everything with one person at the helm?
I mean, it's too late now, right? I don't know. I mean, have you seen the Highlander movies?
I have not.
So Highlander it's this joke because Highlander is a movie which the tagline is there can be only one. And so the general plot is there's all these immortals who for some reason are compelled, who live forever, but are compelled to battle each other and behead each other with swords. And they seem to be maybe stealing each other's energy or essence. And in the end, there can be only one. And you're not really sure why or anything. At the end, they kind of explain it that, the last person kind of feels connection to the whole world or something. But nonetheless, the end of the movie comes, everybody gets killed off, and then our hero kills the last villain, and there's one. And that's the end of the fucking story. You've killed off all the Highlanders. There's one guy left. That was the whole point. They kept wanting to make sequels. And each sequel is horrible. But what's funny as well is that each sequel retcons to make it so that sequel doesn't exist. So everyone is a sequel. Yeah, they're all sequels to the first movie, but none of them are sequels to each other. So like Highlander 2 Highlander 2 The Quickening is a sequel to Highlander. Then Highlander The Final Dimension, which is Highlander 3, is a sequel to Highlander. Highlander the series is a sequel to Highlander. Which then has an ending. And it's hilarious. Because I think the same thing happened with the Halloween series, where they kept retconning and being like, okay, this is a sequel to the first movie. Those other movies don't count.
That reminds me of every sequel after Terminator 2 Judgment Day. I remember Terminator 3 was the definitive sequel to Terminator 2.
Right.
Terminator 4 was the real definitive
sequel to Terminator 2. Right.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. They do a sequel and they're like, no, that sequel doesn't count. Well, yeah, no, Halloween is hilarious with that because they did Halloween 1 and 2. Then Halloween 3 has nothing to do with any of them. Then we have 4, 5, and 6 are sequels to Halloween 1 and 2. Then they decide they don't like 4, 5, and 6. So Halloween 7 and 8 are sequels to Halloween 1 and 2. And then they decide they don't like any of that. So they cut them all out. And then the last Halloween is a sequel to Halloween. You need a fucking chart to figure out